and turn on the evening news. Let them spoon feed lies to you. Oh yes, and well go ahead and trust those wolves in fancy clothes. Let them tell you what you think you need to know. Some say you get what you pay for, others say you get what you need. But if you ain't got shit to stand for, if you don't break your leg or pick your pocket, why judge a man on how he lives? So go ahead and turn on the morning news. Drink your coffee and eat your everything bagel too. Oh yes, and make sure you let them tell you who to hate today. It's gonna change tomorrow anyway. Some say you get what you pay for, others say you get what you need. But if you ain't got shit to stand for, then why the hell do you bleed? Some people say that you get what you deserve, others say you get what you get. But if they don't break your leg or pick your pocket, why judge a man on how he lives? You can have faith in God, but that don't mean that God does this. You don't give a damn about one another. And I don't care much for religion, but I know we got to look out for our brothers and sisters. Some say you get what you pay for, and others say you get what you need. But if you ain't got shit to stand for, then why the hell do you bleed? Some people say that you get what you deserve, and others say you get what you get. But if it don't break your leg or pick your pocket, why judge a man on how he lives? So go ahead, turn on the evening news. Let them spoon feed lies to you.
And y'all know what sound that is. That means it's another episode of Booze and News, everybody. And I got a special guest tonight. Welcoming Coleman Cox to the show. Welcome to Happy Half Hour, Coleman.
Hey, bud, what's going on?
So, man, I got too big of a beer. That's what's going on. It's going to fall the fuck over. I'm going to have to hold on to this thing.
Is that Colorado beer?
This isn't the Colorado beer. This is Lagunitas Little Some Something. You ever had this beer?
Mm-mm.
It's fantastic.
No.
You
I've had Lagunitas.
Yeah. So it's like how do I describe it? It's like the IPA that they do, except it's a little bit more citrusy, just a different hop element to it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I got kind of a citrus thing going on. I'm drinking Shiner Ruby Redbird. I got their variety pack, so starting off with this one and going progressively heavier.
Well, there you go. Coleman was a guest on our Booze and News interviews 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. Which was super fun because, yeah, that's right. Because last week was 4th of July. And if you guys haven't got a chance to watch that or listen to it, it's on Instagram. Go check it out. It was a really great interview, and I'm stoked that you were able to join us tonight because Albert couldn't be here. Basically, we're just gonna talk about current events and all that kind of shit. So, if you guys have any questions for us, you can put them there into the stream, and I'll see them as we go along. How was your 4th of July, by the way, man?
4th of July was fun. What did I do? Well, I went to just watch movies with some close friends we got in Nacogdoches.
Nice.
Moved up here recently, and it's really nice, man. Nacogdoches is like a little college town,
Yeah.
kind of sleepy. Somebody told me the bars close at like 11 or something, except like on the weekends they'll be open till 1, maybe. I don't know if that's true, but if so, fucking crazy.
I mean,
Big if true.
they might stay open later, because of the holiday weekend or whatever. So
Yeah.
but who knows? No, I like Nacogdoches. I was just up there. I have family that lives up there, and I was just up there. It's pretty.
Yeah. So green and everything. I'm so used to like the plants in Baytown, the chemical plants.
Oh, dude, is that where you grew up down here?
Yeah, Baytown, Texas. Very centered around plant life,
Right.
chemical plant life. I learned that when you're not in Baytown and you say like plants, like I'm tired of all these fucking plants. They're like, what? Like you want to live in the city? Like you're tired of the trees or what?
Right.
They don't know you're talking about chemical plants. Like no, there's.
Right. I think every kid thought those were cloud factories. I know I did.
That's what my dad fucking told me. He told me that he was like, that's what makes the clouds. I believed him. I believed him until like, it's about the same time I figured out Santa Claus wasn't real. I was like,
well, what's ironic is he wasn't actually lying, but it just makes the clouds of pollution. You see?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it makes certain clouds. Clouds of a certain disposition.
That's right. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this. I don't know if you saw this. Let me pull this up. You should be able to see it on my screen. You may not be able to hear the videos, but you should see
yeah.
it. Did you see this?
Yep.
So this is for the folks at home. This is Mark Zuckerberg. Our techno. What do we consider him? Techno czar? Techno.
Oh man, let's not give him that title. Tech boy.
Well, no, because Elon Musk already claimed the title Techno King. Right?
Yeah.
So, but let's play this video which went viral over the weekend of him on this crazy electronic surfboard thing with an American flag. I don't know where they're at. I guess this is like Washington, or I don't know where the fuck.
Yeah, I think that's called the hydrofoil. Somebody said it on Reddit. I'm just gonna call it that.
Interesting. Well, it looks fun as fuck. I'm so happy that he's having a great time. But speaking of this, I think it's just ironic because if you look at this is like all patriotism, right? Like, look how fucking patriotic I am, right?
Yeah.
On these here waters. And then at the same time, I don't know if you know this, but there's a guy, I don't remember what his full name is. I think his first name is Iriami, but he goes by the Funky Academic on like YouTube and Twitter and all that. And he's a real interesting guy. He does like these lectures and all this kind of stuff, and he really gets deep into like a lot of like social issues, of which some I agree with, some I don't. But for the most part, he's really, really thought provoking. Anyway, he posted on Facebook on July 4th quotes from the Declaration of Independence, right? Specifically quotes, that had to do with like the freeing of slaves, and for insurrectionists and what they called savages at the time, which is just indigenous people, right? And so Facebook banned him for like hate speech for literally quoting the goddamn Declaration of Independence.
Oh, dude, yeah.
On the 4th of July, on Independence Day.
Yeah, that's one thing that the founders didn't foresee, that corporations would become like little countries. They would control our communication so much, and now they're private entities. And the common argument is they can do whatever they want to on their home turf. They can kick anybody they want off their platform. But when the platform becomes so large and ubiquitous, it's sort of like, do they have that right? I mean, it's sort of...
Well, yeah, it's interesting because it is the modern... I've heard it compared to the modern-day printing press, right? So if you think if you think about it as such, then they do not have the right to really censor the way that they've been doing it. You know what I mean? Because that would then encroach on freedom of the press or freedom of speech. It's like, for example, like if you're on the phone and you're talking about whatever the fuck you want to talk to somebody, well, Apple doesn't have the right to tell you like, well, fuck you. You know what I mean? We're just gonna cut your shit off.
Yeah.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, that's the thing. Is I mean, we're in a place where all of our interactions are becoming more and more corporatized, and everything that was not owned is becoming owned.
Right.
And you also have this other side where people are trying to remove the role of government in our lives and everything. But it seems like where the government is, that's the only place that our freedoms are technically protected still.
Yeah,
so like
I was just having that conversation actually literally on Facebook today with somebody, because that's the fucking forum. That's like the town hall, that we all use. We don't go to like these city hall meetings anymore. I wish we did. I wish we did. I wish we'd go to city hall and town hall and have this stuff, but it's all online.
Yeah.
Is where we have these discussions. And they were bitching. They were like, well, if you don't like it, you should blame the politicians and all that. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But if you're anti-government, if that's your whole shtick, like the whole libertarian thing, it's like the private corporations have proven that they're totally not going to stick up for you in the least. Like the only reason they do at all whatsoever, right? Like, is because the government makes them. Like, otherwise there wouldn't be any minimum wage. There wouldn't be any, they'd be like, oh, you can never use the bathroom. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's even with the small amount of resistance that they're getting, you're already seeing this kind of stuff. Imagine if that wasn't there.
Right.
But there always seems to be some kind of convoluted argument about like, well, that attitude by the corporations is really caused by all the regulations that we put on them or something. There's always some way to tie it back. And it never really, it's one of those things where like these arguments always take place in kind of a short form format, like you're having a beer with somebody or you're at a cookout and you're like, fine, let me not ruin the fucking day or whatever. And you always kind of like tacitly agree with whatever they're saying. And then you get away and it's like, what the fuck? You really don't think we should have any regulations on corporations at all, And they're so poorly enforced,
right,
that people are allowed to make these arguments. Like, if they were actually enforced, if people obeyed the tax code, I think things would be a lot better. But it allows people to get away and say like, oh, we don't need this thing anyway because it doesn't do anything. So it doesn't do anything because it's not backed up by any kind of force or anything like that. Well, it's not legitimate.
I had listed it on my agenda to talk about it later in the show, but this is actually kind of, it segues into this, so we should just go into it now. And it is about how these corporations, if the government doesn't hold them to any kind of standard or regulation whatsoever, right, they just fucking do whatever they want, and they actually will go as far as to grease the politicians, right? And put the ones that's what they do. That's what they lobby for. They give these people money. So when they go in, they argue on their behalf. One of like the big examples that just came out, and we're actually going to kind of get into a whole thing here about this. But it's did you see the Exxon video that leaked recently, where they had the Exxon lobbyist?
With talking about the congressman, right? His connections with. Chauvin, not Chauvin.
Several. So there was. Let me pull up the article. I'll just pull this up and we can peruse it. But this was on the Guardian, and I gotta get rid of this thing. But anyway, there was this Exxon lobbyist that sat down with. It was a UK journalist, right, undercover reporter, and they kind of set it up like it was a job interview. Right? So this Exxon lobbyist is just coming in like, oh, I'm a fucking badass. Like, look, we don't even, we tell the public one thing, right? We go out and we tell the public, oh, we're so down with carbon tax and working to be better and greener and all this shit. But on the sidelines, we know that's all bullshit because we're giving money to these senators. And he talks about how, oh yeah, we got these guys that we go after. He was calling them fish, like. What's his name was a big one. The guy from West Virginia. It says it here in this article. Let me see if I can pull it up. I can't believe I just drew a blank on his name. The senator from West Virginia.
Yeah, I just read that earlier today, but I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, fucking! I can't believe I forgot his name.
But go ahead.
Joe Manchin. So,
Manchin,
yeah,
there we go.
because Manchin is the guy who is like right now the deciding vote on all this shit, right? They have a 51 majority with the VP, right, as the tiebreaker, and if Manchin doesn't get his way, he just fucks everything up. That's what's been happening with all these infrastructure plans and all that, you know. And also, then there's Kristen Sinema as well, who basically, if it's not Manchin who fucks it up, she'll fuck it up. But anyway, these Exxon people said that, yeah, we go in, we know these specific people that we have to target, right? And we just get them in our pocket, and we make it seem like, well, there's no way to actually budget this, right? Because they say, like, it's called the pay for, right? How do you pay for it, right? So they go in and they're like, your constituents, right? They'll be with you if you say, well, we just can't afford to do this. And it's mostly like the more conservative Democrats who they're targeting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually kind of like a folksy talking point or something like that, you know.
Right.
We can't afford it, you know. These libs, I mean, they're trying to take away all your money, you know, even though the government is already taking all of their money.
Well,
you know, especially if you live in someplace with like state tax or whatever, and they're not taking.
But that's the thing, is that they would have to be. It would be Exxon. See, if you pass a carbon tax, right? They're gonna push it as in, oh, all the people are gonna have to pay for it, right? But it's really going to hurt Exxon, right? It's really going to hurt these big companies the most. Same kind of thing is if you pass like a wealth tax, or if you pass a what's another prime example? Like wealth tax, 100% only hurts the wealthiest people. But if you pass like a tax on the road, right? So like a gas tax, it definitely does hurt the common man, but Amazon and people like that, how many Amazon vehicles are on the road, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna get taxed. They don't want to, but the carbon one is interesting because they're basically saying the quiet part out loud in this interview. Which, if you haven't watched it, it's only like 16 minutes long. He basically says, "Look, we'll tell the public one thing, but we know we're never gonna do it." He actually goes as far as to talk about like reusable plastics, right? And that kind of stuff, because of the plastics in the ocean, and Exxon has promised to like be better about that, and he's like, no, we're not doing any of that. We're gonna make fuckloads of money off plastic.
If you haven't seen it, there's a really good documentary on I think it originally aired on like the History Channel or something, but it was this documentary about Edward Bernays, who was the pioneer of a lot of the focus group type stuff, the PR departments for corporations,
right?
Which used to be called propaganda department, or like, you know, the propaganda wing or whatever. But that the word propaganda kind of got a bad rap,
right?
Around World War II, and so there's a good documentary on him called, and this sucks. Well, anyway, look up Edward Bernays on YouTube, but it was called The Century of the Self. But it was all about him and how he kind of started working with the concepts that Freud proposed, which he was related to Freud. He was like family with Freud, and how he got people to like one thing he did was he was working for a cigarette brand, and he was tasked with getting more women smokers, and this is around the same time as the women's suffrage movement,
right? Which
is one thing that a lot of these corporations do, is they tie themselves to some kind of, you know, woke thing.
Well, yeah.
This has been going on for it's a century now, more than that, and that's their operating procedure. Is It makes it so much more difficult to remove them, or to call to say smoking is bad or whatever, when you tie it to something like women's rights. But you know, that's where you look at the women's suffrage movement. Edward Bernays was able to successfully sell this to them and say, like, well, if you smoke, that shows that you're not conforming to men's standards and all this stuff.
Right. And the smoking one is interesting, just in the way that they've dismissed things, being like their tactic. It was like, well, everybody knows smoking is bad. You know what I mean? But yeah. But it is interesting, the whole like woke marketing PR strategy, because in two prongs. One, it makes them the ally, right? So if they're the ally, they can't also be the opponent, right? They can't be like, you can't look at them and go, well, fuck, Amazon sure does fuck around a lot of people and monopolize things and probably destroy the economy, but they're down with gay people. Look at that Pride advertisement and that
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter ad that they put up. You know what I mean?
To be to be fair, I don't think that that's a thing where like I think the I don't want to say like gay people or people who are underrepresented are falling for this because I don't think they are.
Oh, I don't believe they are
But
either, but it's definitely what they're attempting to do. Like they're trying to win a cultural kind of war, and instead, because their whole point is if you look over here, it's like sleight of hand, right? Look over here, and don't look at the shitty economic stuff that we're doing, right? Don't look at the fact that like we're polluting and we're wasting and we're doing all this other crap, right? And we're not paying our taxes. Look over here. Look, we got
Exactly.
LGBT banners.
yeah, corporations are the kid in Zoom class during the pandemic that like puts on a video of him looking at the camera so we can go play video games. Like they just want to appear like they're like they're doing something good, but what they're doing takes no effort, doesn't take any money. They just like create a new logo or whatever, and they continue fucking us on the environment and in reality. The cost of things is something that you're saying politicians like to call back to all the time, you know, and that's sort of like that, and it's a disingenuous argument because they're saying like, yeah, well, the cost of this regulation is going to cost us, and we're going to pass that down the line. It's like, first of all, why don't you just eat that cost then, which you could afford to do, or alternately, let's consider how much money we're saving instead of thinking of it as a cost. Like I think there's still a net benefit if you're helping to save the environment, you're slowing the progression of climate change. I think that will save people a lot of money, especially all the people that will be displaced and all the people who will be affected by people being displaced. But we don't talk about that. It's always the immediate cost instead of how much we're going to save down the line exponentially if we just implemented a carbon tax or did something. I mean, look at the tower collapse. That's what everyone's talking about.
Oh yeah, give me 1 second. I actually want to get into that, but I might stop up. What is going on here, guys? Oh man, it was working there at the beginning. Let's see. All right, let me just end this. Okay, and we'll restart it.